A new bill pre-filed in the South Carolina legislature could take guns out of the hands of domestic violence offenders.
Women's shelters are praising the changes, but some defense attorneys think it probably won't help. News 13's Evan Donovan spoke with the sponsor of the bill today. And Evan, are these necessary changes to this law?
Well, that depends on who you ask. South Carolina ranks first in some deadly statistics about domestic violence, but some people think harsher penalties will only clog the system and keep the real victims hiding in the shadows.
In South Carolina, we're #1 in the entire country for deaths caused by domestic violence.
That grim statistic is what pushed State Representative and Lieutenant Governor candidate Bakari Sellers to introduce new legislation that he hopes will reduce the violence.
We do make a provision that batterers intervention programs are mandatory, and hopefully that will just stop the cycle of abuse in its tracks. Because when abuse happens repetitively, it usually escalates in the amount of violence.
In addition to mandatory intervention programs, the bill stiffens penalties for offenders by raising the maximum jail sentences. It also includes a provision for judges to confiscate an offender's firearms if the victim files an order of protection, a measure that domestic violence prevention advocates support.
It's all about power and control. So when an abuser feels like they're losing that control, it's going to be the most dangerous time for that victim.
But some attorneys say harsher penalties will create an even bigger backlog, obscuring the true victims.
There's so many cases that the pattern abusers, the pattern people that commit assaults, they go hidden in a vast sea of cases that are, for the most part, they're just arguments.
Hisker says the judicial system is already challenged by physical and financial shortfalls, both in the courtroom and in the jails.
It's political. Some politicians are going to use this to get elected. They'll claim to make the penalties harder. They're going to fix everything, and it's not going to fix anything. It's just going to make it worse.
My bill is not a silver bullet. There's still some things that can be done. There's some things I can't legislate. But this is definitely a step in the right direction.
A representative pre-filed the bill for 2014, so it will come up in next year's legislative session. I should point out there are already provisions for certain domestic violence offenses that allow for the confiscation of weapons, so that part of the bill is stronger but not new.